I think that's one thing too, with when you're making decisions for your own path and you have that like feeling in your gut. And I know some people say, don't go with your gut, don't go with your head, don't go with your heart. And I think you have to work all those things together, because when it's right, you will feel it.
Welcome to the Break Free Podcast. I am your host, David Mancella. Today we have with us an amazing entrepreneur, Brittany Anderson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for making the time. I know that this is the only thing I can never pay you back, because once the time is gone, it's gone. But I promise that I'll do my best to bless your life with a bit of my advice, but especially to get your advice for the rest of the audience, especially me, because I cannot wait to see what's between those beautiful ears of yours.
Well, thank you. You just know how to make somebody feel so good.
Brittany, where do you live? What do you do for a living? And how long have you been in business?
Yeah, so I am in southern Minnesota, where this time of year, it can't quite figure out what season it is, or really any time of year. So in rural southern Minnesota, actually in a town of 10,000 people is where my office is. I live even further away than that in a really rural area. So country girl, let's say city girl raised, country girl by heart.
Wow.
I am in the wealth planning industry. So I am the president of a wealth planning firm. And, I like to joke around about this, but I am definitely the people person, not the numbers person. We hire brilliant professionals that take care of those kind of decisions. And I am really focused on building the vision for the company and helping move it into kind of that next level growth. Been here for, it's been going on 14 years already. So it's been quite a run and an exciting one, and one filled with, challenges and opportunity, but I am truly, truly blessed for what the path has provided.
That's beautiful. And wealth management is so needed, because I truly believe what took you to make your money is different than what takes you to keep it and grow it.
Oh, amen. Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
It's amazing. The accumulation phase, it may not be easy, but it's pretty simple. The distribution phase of life, where you are trying to make sure that you keep your money and you make wise decisions, and you're, actually investing in yourself and your future and experiences and all that great stuff. It's different. Yeah.
So tell me, how do you run a company, a wealth management company, from a town with 10,000 people? I bet your customers are not in that town, are they?
No, it's funny. We get that question a lot. We've been really fortunate to reach great levels of success in the business, and they I get that head scratch once in a while where people are like, well, wait a second, you're in rural southern Minnesota, 10,000 people. So we actually have and serve clients from all across the country. I think 34-ish states is what we're in right now. And, most of them do have some sort of tie back to the Midwest, where, maybe they had started a business here and that grew and escalated and they moved it somewhere else. They have relatives here. They've been connected through somebody who knows somebody here. So we've really been fortunate to be able to serve people at a capacity. And, technology is a wonderful thing. Even pre-pandemic, we were serving people via Zoom or some other form of video technology for a lot of years. So that's been something that's been a huge blessing for us.
Yeah, tell me about it. I run a software company, among other businesses, but to create relationships for people to pay us millions of dollars for what we do, it takes a lot, right? It takes face to face and build rapport and build trust and show them that we're the good guys, right?
Yeah.
But then COVID hit and people were willing to do that on Zoom. So now our company is skyrocketing because I don't have to travel to actually go see my clients or to get my new clients. It's a blessing.
Amazing. Yes. Amazing.
So tell me, Brittany, let's go back in life. Where were you at your last year of high school? You were about to go to college. Did you go to college? What did you do with your life?
Yeah. So my last year of high school, I was actually living in Southern California. Grew up in a divided home. My parents had divorced when I was about 4 years old, and I had decided to move and live with my dad for a while. So I finished high school out there, and I actually bring it a little bit further back than that last year of high school, I had this vision in my head from a really young age that I wanted to go to college in California. My mom had been in Southern Minnesota, so that's how I ended up here. That's how I know the area. But I really wanted to be into the UC system, which is University of California, insert city. So they have UCLA, they have UC San Diego, UC Riverside, UC Berkeley. Like there's all these different options. And I knew that if I lived there for a period of time, that my tuition would cost a heck of a lot less. So, I came from a family where I knew I would have to pay for college on my own and create my own path and forge my own future. And I saw that as an opportunity. So I moved with my dad and I actually started taking college courses during my senior year of high school because I was that kid that I wanted to live in the future. I was so eager. And yeah, it's funny. And I've actually just been reflecting on this lately. From a really young age, I just wanted to pay my own bills, which is so insane when you get to be an adult. And you're like, wait a second, this is horrible. I wanted that freedom. And, for me, I just saw this opportunity. So started college in my senior year. And then I ended up going full-time at University of California in Riverside. And that's really where my college path started. It's not where it ended, but it's where it started.
That's beautiful. You're so the opposite. My best friend, he couldn't wait to graduate, and then he took 6 months off.
Oh.
And he did nothing for 6 months after he graduated from high school until he finally went back to computer science school.
I actually respect people that have the gumption to do that, to just pause, like push that pause button. I liken it, if you think about it, being a senior in high school, being that kid that's about to go to college and everybody's asking you, what do you want to do? What are you going to do with your life? What do you want to do for the rest of your life? I liken it to actually people that are retiring, and what I deal with now in business, people are asking them, well, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? What's next? What's coming up? And at both stages, people are like, I've never been in that part of my life before. So I have utmost respect for people who can actually pause and take that time for reflection and then make a decision. It saves maybe a little bit of time and a little bit of money. I changed my major like 4 different times. So I thought I knew, I just didn't.
You changed your major 4 different times.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And actually, that's a great lesson, because a lot of people are listening. They have all these options in life. They don't know what to take, and they are afraid to take one path or the other. They try to take the safest path without knowing that they can try them all and then keep the one that they like the most.
Yes. That's so true. And I think, again, it's like we put so much pressure on people at any major transition in life where, you better make the right decision, and you have to just, get all your ducks in a row and make sure that And I guess one thing with me is I've never really been fearful of chance. And it's like, you know what, you try it. And if you don't like it, the great thing in this beautiful life and this place we live in is we get to pivot and we get to make different decisions. So for me, that's always been assuring. Maybe it's worked out. Maybe it hasn't every time, but I think there's so much truth to that.
For sure. So what did you end up finishing at?
I ended up finishing at business management. Long path. I'll just give kind of the condensed version of started in psychology because I had a cousin who she went to school for psychology, and I really admired her and I looked up to her, and I took one of the science classes and I was like, oh, this is absolutely not for me. I didn't know this was part of it. But what I found is that I loved people. I love communication. I like understanding what makes people or helps people make decisions. So navigated into communications and quickly realized I wasn't sure what I would ever do with that. And then I ended up going into English because I thought, well, maybe I'd want to be a teacher. Maybe this whole people dynamic, I want to actually teach and help people learn and help people, articulate in different ways. And realized that maybe wasn't a lifelong thing for me. And so then I landed in business management. And, really, I think what it all boiled down to was entrepreneurship. Honestly, when I think about that chase and that kind of looking at all these different dynamics, and I fell in love with business and how do you grow it and how do you create something successful from nothing, and how do you help, different levels accelerate even further, and how do you get people behind the same mission? A lot of it was, that entrepreneurial spirit that maybe I didn't know I had at the time. So that's where it landed.
What did you do right after that? Like, did you land at a job, or you went on business, or what did you do?
Yeah. So I was actually, again, this future young Brittany that couldn't stay out of the future. I was actually working full time while I was going to college, and I was in a corporate structure. I was actually in a jewelry store, and I was selling jewelry, and I loved sales. I loved the experience and being able to just take a moment and absolutely make somebody's day by helping them find, something so precious. I sold a lot of like high-end engagement rings. So I ended up moving kind of through that corporate structure. I actually was managing a jewelry store at the same time that I was graduating college. So I thought at the time that I would go into this like corporate world. And again, I quickly realized that, gosh, there's not a lot of freedom here. Like you bring ideas to the table, but it has to go up through 20 different people. And you have to do things a certain way and fit a certain mold and don't go too far outside the box. And I just realized I'm like, this isn't fulfilling to me. And I love the experiences and I love helping people, but I don't love the structure. So I actually was doing that right out of college. And then an opportunity presented itself at Sweet Financial Services, which is now Sweet Financial Partners, where I am the acting president. So 14 years ago, Brittany out of college, I took a service position here, not really knowing what the heck it was all about or what I was going to do with it. But there was something calling me to the business here that got me really excited. And I felt like I had to work here. Again, now rewind a little reflection. I would say that it was absolutely the entrepreneurial culture that just spoke to my soul. And you could literally feel it in the job ad. You could see it in the website. You could feel it with interaction with the people here. And it's been just an absolutely beautiful experience ever since. Highs and lows, but a really great experience.
So that's why this is called break free, because you just broke free into your life calling, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that wealth management for you became an instrument of freedom. 14 years, you said? That's amazing.
14 years. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think you're so right. I think that's one thing too, with when you're making decisions for your own path and you have that like feeling in your gut. And I know some people say, don't go with your gut, don't go with your head, don't go with your heart. And I think you have to work all those things together, because when it's right, you will feel it. Like every ounce of your being will feel it. And when it's wrong, every ounce of your being will feel it if you'll let yourself lean into those feelings. So not to go too woo-woo with that, but
the biggest bullshit in the world when they tell you don't go with your heart.
Yeah.
When people tell you don't go with your heart, they're telling you you're scared and you're going to die if you follow your heart. So use your brain to get you to the safest position. Basically, people that go with their brain, not with their heart, what they're doing is they're using their reptile brain to save them from the tiger that is no longer here.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what I say, people, is use your brain and your heart together. Because when the two organs are in coherence, that's when you make the best decision.
Yeah.
But if you have to decide, go to the heart first.
I love that. And it's 100%. So true. I finally found somebody that sees it in that similar capacity. And I absolutely love that. And I think you are just dead on with that thought process.
Right. And we think we're gonna die all the time. It's like we are so afraid, and news and media doesn't help, right? They're always trying to make us afraid. And then what you do is you leave you let yourself live in this tight box that is very safe, but nothing grows there. Yeah. The only way to grow is just to go to the unknown and do what you did, from selling jewelry to managing a wealth management company. It's crazy, right?
It is incredible. And, you're so right there too. I think if people spent as much time absorbing, resources like the media and things that are trying to provoke fear, but instead working on what it means for you to overcome certain fears and to take chances in your life and to really lean into possibility. I mean, I think about what the world could be, and it's such an amazing picture. And I just hope that more and more people can start to shut out some of that fear-based, provoking, and really tune into what it is that they want and that they want to uncover for their lives.
Beautiful. Now, how did somebody go from the bottom of the company to become the president and partner? How do you pull that off?
A whole lot of faith and a whole lot of chance. I would say that, when I got into the role, I knew I was taking a step call it backwards from where I had been, both monetarily and really, leadership wise as well. So I got into the position and I quickly realized that I missed being in that kind of position of leadership and bigger decisions for the company and really helping with that bigger picture. So the gal who was in the operations role at the time, she ended up deciding that she was going to move to be closer to her kids. So the position opened up. It was a director of operations role. And I had sheepishly spoke up and said, well, I would actually be interested in it. Well, at the time, they had actually hired a recruiter and they're trying to find people from any major city that's in at least a close proximity to us. They're offering all kinds of bonus incentives. They offered a Mercedes for anybody that would move and take this job and commit to some contract. So as part of the process, they agreed to let me interview with this recruiter. And the recruiter goes to Brian Sweet, the founder, who's now one of my business partners in a couple different ventures, went to him and said, what are you doing? Like, just put Brittany in the role. And he had a head scratch moment and was like, are we talking about the same Brittany? Like, are you sure? Like, it's a really big responsibility. And so at the time I hadn't worked real closely with him, but he ended up leaning on her advice and he gave me the role. He did not give me the Mercedes. So I tease him about that to this day. No, but it was honestly that moment that I stepped into that role and I started working a lot closer with him. And, he is that, by definition, shiny object chasing entrepreneur, and he can be a lot to keep up with. But, what he was doing and some of the programs he was involved with, I started getting involved with. So, being around other brilliant entrepreneurial minds and just soaking it all in and, learning from so many different facets, it was then that, he and I started to realize a commonality in coaching. So we developed a coaching business and I got moved into the chief operating officer role as I started really running the company and freeing him up to do the things that he loved. And then in turn ended up being offered a partnership opportunity and president position now. And, it's been great because we're working on the vision and what's next for the company and what's next for other businesses. And it's just been this great culmination of events. And honestly, I can say, I wish there was some magic formula I could give somebody that's trying to, enhance their role or, take a chance and start their own business even. But it really boils down to, having faith, having trust, and not letting fear stop you from, something that may feel overwhelming or intimidating. But in reality, it's one of the most rewarding things on the other side. So lean into that fear a little bit.
Beautiful. And I admire you so much because, we live in a culture where women have a very hard time race to the top. And when I find
Yeah.
examples like you, it's a blessing because we need to empower women to take those roles. I always believe that, by the way, women are smarter than us, than those or us dudes, right? Because you guys use your heart more than we do.
Yeah.
Going back to the heart, right? But you also have an amazing brain. So you have this beautiful, loving intelligence that we don't have. Most of us don't have. Right?
Well, I'm not going to argue with you on that.
No, it's true. And you'll see, watch what's going to happen. In the next 10 years, more and more women will take leadership roles.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. I already see it happening.
You're dead on with that. I mean, there's so many statistics that are showing that actually, one of the latest is that women actually make up, I believe it was 54% of the workforce today. So it's kind of incredible. Wow. There's this amazing shift that's happening where women are actually stepping into more control of their money, of their finances, of, really the household and that kind of that role, being able to step into the higher profile roles as well. In just a couple short years, that percentage has increased as well. So it is exciting. And I love seeing other women too, especially, when they're juggling families and different responsibilities and also taking chances and really pursuing their passions. And that's a neat story. It's neat for anybody, male or female, but I obviously hold a special place in my heart for the women that take those chances.
Beautiful, beautiful. Biggest problem in your life, and how did you get out of that problem?
Biggest problem in my life. Gosh, I think for me, this is something I would say I'm still actively working on, is that I, for a lot of years and for many reasons, identified my worth based on how busy I could be. And that's something that is really hard to shift out of, right? Like it's something that, I felt like if I was at a place of rest or I wasn't like physically doing something to help either move a business forward, move some aspect of my life forward, that I wasn't worthy and that I wasn't enough. And that's something that I have been doing some really hard introspection, trying to kind of get to the bottom of why that is, but also realizing that, a place of rest is actually where you have monumental breakthroughs. So for me, if I know now, like if I'm able to disconnect for, a few days or a week or even more, I am way more fresh and way more focused and actually probably arguably 10 times more productive at a minimum just by allowing myself to just be. So I would say that's a problem that's been something from a very, very young age that I am continuing to working on, but I would say I probably have the best handle around it than I've had. I'm not perfect and I have a ways to go, but
Yeah.
that's something that I've really tried to overcome.
And that's something that most entrepreneurs suffer from, including me. Well, I
Yeah.
don't have that anymore, but I used to have that, so that I will make myself busy. The problem is that I will make myself so busy that I was an obstacle to my team.
Yeah.
Because I was just running around in circles, micromanaging everybody and just making their life miserable. When I stepped out of the company and I started working 1 day a week, the company started to grow. I'm like, what the fuck? It was my fault for making myself too busy, right?
Like, what have I been doing? No, it does. It's interesting because you get in your own way and you get in the way of others. I mean, I think about it in my personal and my professional life. It spills over across the board where, I was interviewed on another podcast recently talking about this future focus and this future goals. And he's like, people like you are so annoying. And he said it with all sincerity and like kindness, but he's like, you got to be in the present. We can't always be in the future. He's like, the people in the past are kind of boring because they think the best years were behind them. The people in the present kind of have it figured out, and people like you are annoying. And I was like, that's fair. I agree.
Now, I'm about to launch a group called Owners Inflow, and this is going to be for like high net worth business owners
Yeah.
to come to learn how to be in the flow so they can create from a state of effortless ease. And it's all about what we're talking about. So
Yeah.
we're still going to live in the future, but you're going to do it with your eyes closed, manifesting what you want into your life.
I love
I've been doing
that.
that for the last 2 years, and my net worth is exponentially bigger by doing less. So that now I can be present to do other stuff, to help other people, because
Mm.
my future is already taken care of from within. Isn't
Mm.
that awesome?
That is so awesome. And David, I got to give you credit too, because you said something in a previous conversation we had about your vision on building, I believe it was a financial fortress around your family, one that couldn't be destructed. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that is something that has resonated with me and I can't get it out of my head. So I will tell you that I've absolutely credited you for that particular comment. But I think anybody listening, thinking about how impactful that is and how meaningful that is and how that can drive you. I mean, what you've done, David, and then being able to create this life of peace and harmony and being able to not have to be doing all the time. And now you're going to help other entrepreneurs. I mean, what you do is so amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. But it just comes from when you're in a state of gratitude and blissfulness most of your day, you have to share it. I cannot
Mm,
keep this with me. It cannot be a secret. That's why this download came. I'm like, now I have over 52 people that I'm going to call, and they're going to be part of the group, and
yeah,
it's going to be amazing. And it's just me trying to share what the blessings that I have in my life.
I
But
love
you're the
that.
biggest part of that, by the way. Like, look what you're doing. You're recognizing what your fault is, and now you're making it happen, right? I was like that for 25 years,
I
right?
hope it doesn't take me 25 years.
I know. But now you know me, so it won't take you 25 years.
Right. That's true.
Brittany, I want to be very, very conscious of your time because I know it's the only thing that I cannot give you back. Thank you so much for being with us. But I'm going to ask you one last question. It's a pretty tricky one. What would you write in a billboard if you had access to it that was on the busiest highway on earth?
Mm, let's see. What would I write on a billboard? I think it would have to be something along the lines of Don't let fear get in the way of who you're meant to be.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
If people follow that advice, 99% of the population will live a beautiful life in a beautiful state. It's all about how do you conquer your fear? How do you move forward and still feel the fear? Because the fear is still going to be there, but when you move forward, it starts to dissipate. And you realize, oh, this wasn't so bad at all.
That is absolutely true. And I think once you start kind of getting through those barriers, all of a sudden fear becomes a little bit fun, and you're able to kind of see what you're capable of. And really, the limiting belief, it's the 6 inches between our ears that hold us back from our truest potential and capabilities. And I'll share this final thought too. Keith Cunningham, American business owner, most famous for making a whole bunch of money, losing a whole bunch of money, and then making it again. He has a quote in his book, The Road Less Stupid, that said, "Hell on earth would be meeting the man or woman that you were meant to be." And that is something that helps me navigate that fear. So when I come back to that word all the time, that's something that I don't want myself to get in my own way. I've done that enough. Yeah. Let's try not to do that anymore in the future.
Fantastic. Brittany, so much wisdom. Thank you so much. And by the way, it doesn't look like you have been doing 14 years of professional work when you look like 28. I guess you started when you were 10 years old or something, Well,
I'll accept that. I'm a little bit older than that, but I'll accept that.
Thank you so much for being in the show. If people need to want to get in touch with you, know more about your services, your company's services, how can they contact you?
Yeah. So sweetfinancial.com, SWEET. You can absolutely, do the contact us, find out a little bit more there. I do have a personal website, BrittanyAnderson.com, and I respond to every email, Brittany@sweetfinancial.com. So any of those would be perfect.
Blessings, Brittany. Thank you so much, and keep shining your light in the world. We need you.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate you.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free Podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.